Morata, il destro, bene per Dybala, sinistro, gol!
Lewandowski, Ball rein damit in die Mitte, Schieber mit dem Kopf, Reus, quer, Linie, Tor,
Golazo de Cristiano Ronaldo para el Real Madrid.
Il est passé Lucas, il est passé, il va tenir ce ballon, le remettre dans la... Quel but extraordinaire d'André Di.
Hello and welcome to the Football Hipsters podcast. It's the weekly pod. It's your first choice, hopefully, for all things European football. I am your host, Chris, as I always am, and I've got the usual crew together with me. I've got Tom, I've got Drew, and I've got John. Good evening, gentlemen.
Evening, Chris. Hello.
Hello.
Right, now we have loads to get through, as we always do. Say it every week, it never changes. One week we'll just have a series of nil-nils and we'll just sit here and talk about nothing. But we do have plenty to get through, and we'll start, as we always do, with this week's and all every week's 90. Okay then, now I'll try and say it right this time, 90. This week I'm going to break with tradition, and I'm actually going to start us off this week, so I shall put the timer on. And my 90, sadly, begins now. So, this week, Lyon, they had a midweek fixture, thank God, because there was more happening in the midweek fixture than there was in the weekend's fixture. Lyon went to, or played at home, I should say, at home to Gazlak Ajaccio midweek, a 3-0 win in the Coupe de France, goals from Philipotou, Barthelme and Payet. Unfortunately, the downside is, although they've made the semi-finals, they've now drawn PSG, so expect that to come to a shuddering end on Tuesday the 19th of April. Now, on to the weekend action. It was a game against Bastia in Corsica, away from home at the Stade Armand Cesari, 10,586, watched a 0-0 draw. So as you can probably imagine, I'm going to struggle to fill the gap here, but Bastia came into the game probably the form side, and Lorient changed their formation to match them, a 4-1-4-1 with Ndong and Dula coming in. They also changed 3 of the back 4, Moussava King, who went on to be man of the match, Gassama and Le Goff coming in. It was a slow start for Lemelot, and Lecomte was busy throughout the game. He denied Aite with a superb save early on, and Bastia pretty much dominated the game. Danic curling just wide and Brandao also off target. Then into the second half, Lecomte was forced into another really stunning save, double save from Brandao and Danic, before the latter went on to hit the post, almost claimed all 3 points. Lorient's best chance was from Philipotou, who had a chance late on, but he fired it over, so it remains 0-0. Point apiece, Lorient remain 10th on 38 points, and next up in Liga is Marseille at Le Moustoir. Wow, amazing. Really can't work out how I managed to get all that out of a 0-0, but hey. Right then, who's next on my hit list? John, I'm looking at you. So, let's find out how Gladbach got on this week. Your Mighty 90 begins now.
Well, I've got 2 games to cover. First one's nice. Wednesday night we had a great result at home against Stuttgart. Nice 4-0 win, very comfortable. Goals from Hazard, Raphael and a returning Patrick Herrmann. Very excited to see him back on the pitch. The 4th goal was an own goal from Grosskreutz. Hazard really good in this game. But yeah, the best news out of it is definitely Herrmann being back on the side. Gives us another option out wide. But it's probably the best game I've seen Hazard play since he's been at Gladbach. So hopefully he could carry on that form. Sadly, wasn't the case on Saturday when our away form caught up with us yet again, travelling away to Wolfsburg, losing 2-1. All the goals in the game were in the first half. First Julian Draxler, and then ex-Gladbach player, which is always nice, Max Kruse, getting the second. Raphael did manage to pull one back, and in the second half we actually pushed, and we created a few chances, but Wolfsburg were good enough to hold on to the win. So a little bit disappointing, up and down week, but 6th in the table now, which sounds bad considering where we were earlier in the season, but we're only 3 points off 3rd place, Hertha. So it's really tight competition at the moment for the Champions League spots. I think we can pretty much guarantee Europa League, but Champions League is where we want to really be. Next game is at home to Frankfurt on Saturday. So normally with a home form, should see us getting a win. Fingers crossed.
Superb. Thank you very much. Okay, so mixed news then for you. let's see what's happened with Tom and his Austrian fetish this week.
Before we start, I should say I am ill, so bear with me if I start coughing madly.
Good. It's that Austrian flu. That's what it is. Right,
It's got the weather for it.
Let's find out how RB Salzburg got on then this week. And I watched some Austrian football. More on that in a minute. But let's start with your roundup. Your Mighty 90 begins now.
Okay, so we had a midweek fixture, much like everyone else. Away at Stern Graz, unfortunately, we couldn't get a win. We drew 0-0. Nothing to really report on. It wasn't the best of things to watch. But at the weekend, we had the derby against SV Grudig. Oblin and Cater were both out of the side, which meant that Soriano was up front with Prevoljak. And just 6 minutes in, he scored. Berisha playing a lovely ball into him, and he took it down brilliantly and flicked it over Sveta for the first goal. Minamino attempted a cross for the Grudig centre-back Mark to cannon onto his own crossbar to clear brilliantly. It was Bergkamp-esque in the FA Cup final. Second half, and 9 minutes in, Prevoljak squared for Minamino to save what he messed up in the first half and score the second goal of the match. In the 68th minute, the most consistent player of the season for us, our left-back Austrian man, Ulmer, used some great ball control, not what you're thinking, Drew, inside the box to hammer a Podolski-like shot into the top left-hand corner. It was actually quite a shot. I do recommend go checking that out. This result means that we climb back to the top with Rapid playing on the Sunday, and they didn't get a win, so they drew 0-0 away at Altak, meaning that Salzburg remained top on goal difference. Austria Vienna won 3-0, so they're still 5 points behind. Next week we go to play Wolfsberger, who are in 7th place and are on a 5-game unbeaten run. So it could be quite a tough game because they're in the form, and I'm sure Tim Armitage will remind me of that. But hopefully we can get a win and continue the good form.
Super, thank you very much. I watched a game from the Cash Point Arena, no less, on Sunday between Rheindorf, Altak and Rapid Wien, and
Rapid,
it ended 0-0. It was pretty bloody terrible, and one of the Rapid Vienna strikers missed one of the worst one-on-ones I've ever seen. I mean,
Good. That's good for us.
He had either right or left. He had gaping. The goalkeeper went to ground.
Do you know who it was?
I don't.
It's Schau.
It might have been. Whoever it was, he's pretty bad. I mean, he hit it straight at the keeper. It was terrible. Anyway, I digress. So there you go. I did watch a little bit of Austrian football, and as you say, that result means that you're top. So good times.
Yeah.
Good times indeed. Right, let's go on to hashtag 18 Drew. See if he can. Let's see if he can do his job this week, shall we?
God.
We're never going to let this drop, Drew.
I know.
Right then, your Mighty 90 begins now.
Alright, well, 2 fixtures this week. First, we'll start midweek with our semi-final KNVB Cup clash with AZ Alkmaar. We won 3-1. Marcus Henderson scored an own goal and got us off running in 15th minute, but he equalized on 46th. And then Michel Kramer and Dirk Kuyt netted in the 78th and 85th minute to give us a 3-1 win. And now we have FC Utrecht in the final. So that'll be interesting having to do with Sebastian Haller again this season. So I'm not looking forward to it. And then as for our league fixture on the weekend, we played host to Cambor, and we also won 3-1 quite comfortably. Probably could have scored a few more goals, but Jens Tornjer opened the scoring in 36 minutes. Martin Bartow equalized on 70, and then Dirk Kuyt again popped up in the 79th for the winner. Now Helia added a third in the 85th. So we've bounced back now. I don't know, 2 wins on the spin and then plus a draw in our last 3. So the poor form is behind us at the moment, but we're still level on points as at Alkmaar. Utrecht are only 2 points behind. Vitesse are only 3 points behind, and then Nijmegen are 4 points behind. So it's not going to be easy running right now, and all those teams won at the weekend. So it's up to us to keep the form going, and up to Giovanni Brand-Bronckhorst to keep us playing consistently. But I am a little bit worried that Simon Gustafsson hasn't featured in a while. So I'm not quite sure what that means going forward, and that's why Dirk Kuyt's been playing center midfield lately, which is a little bit bizarre, but we'll see how it goes, and up and up still, so we'll see. Yeah.
Very good, very good. I watched you against Cambert on Sunday, and it was quite a hostile atmosphere. There's a lot of fans with banners and all sorts. It looked pretty unpleasant, to be fair, but a 3-1 win will keep some people happy for another week, so that's got to be a good thing.
Yep.
Got to be a good thing.
Absolutely.
Right, okay. Well, everyone giving us their update there. Thank you very much. You know the drill, people. If you want to know any more about our hipster teams, just give us a shout. And I should say at this point that our breakfast co-host, Ross, has indeed outed him as a Vitas Arnhem follower, so that's his team of choice. So I might have to get him to do a Mighty 90 once in a while on the old breakfast show, so there's a little plug for that. Right then, let's move on, and we'll start our trip with our European roundups, and we'll start with the world of football. Okay then, so you know the drill by now. It's a quick trip around the stats from the leagues this week. Lots of midweek games, so the stats will be quite high. Let's start in the Premier League. There was 20 games, 53 goals. There was 9 clean sheets, 5 red cards, 8 home wins and 7 away wins, of course including midweek. In La Liga, also 10 games, as 24 goals, 4 clean sheets, 2 red cards, 4 home wins, 0 away wins. Interesting. Sorry, Liga, I should say. Sorry, I've jumped the gun there. I do apologise. That was Liga. Now La Liga, 65 goals from the 20 fixtures, including midweek. There was 10 clean sheets, 11 red cards, 8 home wins and 8 away wins. In Serie A, just the weekend roundup here, 25 goals, 6 clean sheets, 1 red card, 6 home wins and 2 away. And finally in the Bundesliga, along with the English Avoca in midweek, 58 goals, amazingly, across the 18 games, lots of goals. 6 clean sheets, 4 red cards, 8 home wins and 5 away from home. So that brings the total this past week of 225 goals across the Big Four or Big Five in Europe. Amazing that. 35 clean sheets, 23 red cards, 34 home wins, 22 away from the 78 games. Couple of quick stats. You know I like to keep people abreast of these. Total goals. Let's have a look at these totals. The Premier League, 757, is the second highest league, because La Liga, we give it lots of stick, but 762 goals is the highest across Europe. Rumour has it Cristiano Ronaldo and Lionel Messi have scored 762 of those. Oh no, that's all of them. Serie A, 712 goals, 627 in the Bundesliga and 703 in little old La Liga. In Liga. God bless it. Hey, never mind. Away wins then. Their highest away total of away wins at the moment is 94 in the Premier League. And the lowest in Bundesliga, 75 there. And away wins percentage-wise, the highest percentage is actually a tie between those two leagues. Premier League and Bundesliga, 33% of games away from home are won. And interestingly, very close to the other leagues as well. Liga and La Liga level on 28% and 29% of the teams winning away in Serie A. And the final one I want to bring to everyone's attention is the old red card stats. Premier League is still kind of low, 45, but the lowest is the Bundesliga, only 31 red cards. Highest, good old Liga, only 1 away now, 99 red cards, just a 1 away from the 100th. And La Liga, including tonight's game, 83 red cards for them, and 89 in Serie A. So your disciplinary chart. So
about half of those are legit, by the way, in Spain.
I was actually going to make another gag and say that of those 83 red cards, I think 82 have been against Real Madrid and Barcelona teams. There we go. But you know us, Tom. We like to rib you. Right, that's the stats out the way then. Thanks to Kelly as usual for compiling those for me. Let's take a trip then into our league roundups, and we're going to start with John, and we'll start in Italy. It's this week's Serie A. Right then, John, let's start with the game between Roma and Fiorentina. Now, this was billed as kind of the big fixture of the week. It was the first game of the weekend action on the Friday, and it's fair to say it was a pretty conclusive victory for the home side.
Yeah, Roma basically walked it. 4-1 winners in the end against Fiorentina. El Shaarawy, Perotti and Salah up front, just showing how good a front three that's been. That's the 6th win on the bounce now for Roma since Spalletti's come back. They're just looking in great form. First goal was from El Shaarawy, who then went on to set up a second goal for Perotti, and Salah bagged himself a brace. Fiorentina did get 1 goal from a penalty scored by Ilicic. It was a nice little dive from Christian Tello. The Roma team going absolutely radio rental, as we say over here, about that decision being given. But Roma looking absolutely brilliant, and probably the best bit of the game actually for if you're a Roma fan was Francesco Totti. After all the sort of talk of him being out of favour and is he going to leave, he came on the 76th minute and big standing ovation from the crowd, and he almost got a goal as well in the last second of the game with a free kick, just clipping the post. So yeah, really conclusive, easy victory for Roma, and it's tough to see it happening, but maybe a late push for the title to contend with Juve. Possibility if they can keep this form going.
Yes, we've got a question on that later on, so we'll get to that. And some nice hand gestures from Wojciech Szczesny in that game as well. Probably
yes.
Best not to look it up if you're underage. Let's just say he didn't really approve of the penalty decision.
Yeah, to be fair, I can see where he's coming from on that one.
Yeah, very much a contact sort of instigated rather than the other way around.
Mm-hmm.
Luca Dean went to ground, gave the referee a decision. We all know what happens there, don't we, Palace fans? Anywho, let's move on then. Hellas Verona. Now, we thought they finally won a game all those weeks ago, and we thought, hurrah, they've got Luca Toni back. Pazzini was scoring well occasionally, and we thought maybe this is the sign they're on the way back. And then they played at home again and lost again this weekend.
Yeah, big relegation game. You may have noticed, listeners, that we're not talking about the big sides. You'll find out why in a minute. But yeah, this game was really important. Verona at home against Samp, and Samp won 3-0. The scoreline sounds very conclusive. Verona are actually better than what the scoreline said there, but it ended Samp's 4 consecutive away defeats. Soriano with the first goal. Quagliarella actually got the shot off, but it was parried, and Soriano with a follow-up. Quagliarella actually was through plenty of times of the game. He had a shot come off the crossbar, which led to the second goal for Cassano and tap-in. Now, I'm going to attempt to say this player's name, and I'm going to get it horribly wrong. The third goal was a fantastic goal from a Du Silvestri cross. Brilliant volley from Christo Duolopoulos. Yeah, so probably if you speed that up a little bit, that'll probably sound right.
Don't worry,
yeah.
I'll get Danny to put it in later.
It had all the vowels in it. Anyway, and that was all within inside 30 minutes in the game. So, it was really, really fast paced. But Verona had plenty of chances. And if it wasn't for Viviano and goal for Samp, they would have got some goals back. But in the second half, they sort of pressed for another 10 minutes to try and get back into the game, and then just basically gave up. And I think that pretty much now puts Verona down, really. A really important win for Samp because it pushes them away from the relegation zone because they were really slipping towards that area.
Yes, indeed. And say it at home with us, kids. Christodoulopoulos. There you go.
There we go.
There you go. Enjoy that one. Let's talk about a team that I know is very close to your heart, both in song and indeed the way they play football. A livid Sinisa Mihailovic, more on him in a moment, as Milan travelled to Sassuolo and the home team took all 3 points.
Yeah, 2-0 win for Sassuolo. Really good performance. Ended Milan's 11-game unbeaten run. Consigli was in great form for Sass at the start of the game. He kept out Carlos Bacca, Bonaventura, Kazuki Honda, and then a really well-worked corner routine from Berardi. Rolled the ball across to the edge of box, and on came running Duncan, and a shot that basically, I think if anyone had got in the way of it, probably would have taken their head off. It was an absolute rocket. Straight into the back of the net. There was a second goal, and we'll get on to why Mihailovic was so upset. That was scored from Sansoni. In the build-up to the goal, Bertolacci was clearly fouled by Biondini, like studs on the thigh, basically. So jumped up for a header. It should have been given, but it wasn't. That was completely ignored, and Sassuolo get the second goal. Mihailovic, very upset. Remonstrating with the fourth official, got sent to the stands. Late on in the game, De Frel actually got sent off for Sassuolo, and they ended up finishing the game with 10 men. A little bit of a strange decision, I thought. It was a bit suspect for a second yellow card, but nevertheless, they saw the game out and just outplayed Milan, which was a bit surprising. Not so much that Sass did it, but just because the form that Milan were in on that particular run, it really came to a sudden end like that. But great for Sass because it keeps them in the hunt for a European spot.
Absolutely, yeah. And they play some good stuff. And as you say, those couple of goals, really, really good goals, really, really good finishes. Let's move on to the final game then. Frosinone against Udinese. I'm gonna give you some credit here. You called this one when we were talking privately off air, so to speak, and you said that Fros had a really good chance because Udinese are not good travellers, and it was an opportunity for the home side to get some much needed points. and they came up trumps, didn't they?
Yeah, not a lot to talk about in the game. As we said, these aren't the sort of the headline teams, but they're important for where their position are in the league. It's massive for Frosinone because it gives them a chance to get out of relegation. They're still in there at the moment, but it was 3 points they really needed. Goals from Ciofani and Blanchard. It's just a huge result for them. And Udinese, their away form has been so poor this season. Really, really bad, and worrying for them as they just keep slipping further and further towards relegation, especially with the best thing for Frosinone that came out of it was some of the results of the other teams around them, and it gives them a real chance of getting out there. But the game itself didn't have a lot of sort of action in it, but the significance of it wasn't lost on anyone.
Yeah, it's a proper old school Italian ground that as well, really is a good result for Fros. Give us the other results from the weekend's action then.
Yeah, so the big two at the top of the table, Juventus won 2-0 away to Atalanta, and Napoli also won 3-1 at home to Chievo. They'd just come off sort of a little bit of a blip after the loss to Juve, but big wins there to keep them on the charge for the title hunt. Inter won 3-1 at home to Palermo. That's good for all the teams down at the bottom. Genoa also won at home to Empoli. That's Empoli's fourth straight defeat now. Worrying times for them. Bologna got a 0-0 with Carpi. Very good. That was the Reggio Emilia derby. Good result for Carpi, but annoying for Bologna, who probably felt they deserved to get something out of that. Lazio came from 1-0 down to rescue a point away to Torino. So that was all the results there. There was some midweek fixtures. There was just 2 cup games. Milan winning 5-0 at home to Alessandria to put them through to the final, and a really, really good game, which I told everyone last week not to bother watching because I thought it was all done. Inter coming from 3-0 down to get 3 goals and take it to extra time against Juventus, and then messing it up on penalties and losing on penalties anyway.
Absolutely gutted as well. To come back so well, it's just like disappointment.
Absolutely amazing comeback. It must be said Juve did rest quite a few players for that game, but nevertheless, very impressive.
Give us where that leaves us in the table as far as we go into the games this weekend.
Yeah, so Juve top on 64 points, Napoli just 3 points behind on 61, Roma in third on 56. So, as I say, it's an 8-point gap, but the form they're in, maybe, there's a chance. Fiorentina back on 53, Milan on 51, Inter on 51, Milan on 47, and Sas on 44. And then down at the bottom, Verona still on 18 points, look like they're gone. Carpi also could be gone as well on 22. Frosinone just above, but they're on 26 points. They're only a point behind Palermo and only 4 points off Udinese and Atalanta, so they've got a chance to get out of it, Frosinone.
Absolutely. Now, before we have a quick look at the news and before you give us another fixture, I know Drew has a quick question, which I think one of our listeners has asked as well, so I'll get Drew to ask it and then I'll give the listener a credit as well. Go on, Drew.
Sure. Whoops. I may not have been paying attention, but basically I just wanted to know, they're Roma on form right now. Do you think they can put in a legitimate run to fight Napoli for second place? And if so, what would you think they would have to do to make that happen?
They've basically got to keep it going now till the end of the season. There's a sense of possible fragility around Napoli. They've been accused of it since the loss to Juve. They won at home against Chievo, which was expected, so that wasn't a huge surprise. But there's still some big fixtures to go. So if Roma can keep the run going, it's certainly important. Napoli are out of the Europa League now, so they don't have any distractions. And Roma, you would think, are probably out of the Champions League. Obviously, we'll find out this week where they're going against Madrid. So it's going to be interesting. As you said, I think Roma are a little bit more diverse, have a few more options, whereas Napoli, if they lose Higuain, then their sort of forward plan is could be put to bed. So they've got a good chance. They could definitely possibly get second, and as an outside shot of the title. But Juve are obviously the strongest team.
Little shout to Cashod, who it was kind of part 2 of his question, so it's all right. We've covered part 2, so we've still got the first part of his question for later on. So no dramas there. Right, John, give us a game to look out for next week, and then you've got a couple of little bits of news.
Game from this week is Friday night. Juventus are at home to Sassuolo. Should be a very, very good game. 2 really exciting teams, and obviously Juve want to keep that run going. In the news, Buffon kept another clean sheet. That's hate 836 minutes now, which is a record this season. He is only behind Dino Zoff and Sebastiano Rossi, who has a 929 minutes. So just needs to get to, I think it's 50-something odd minutes in the next game with a clean sheet, and he has the record for the longest clean sheet of any goalkeeper. The other bits of news, Mbaye Niang is out for the season for Milan. He's got to undergo ankle surgery after a car accident. There's a very strange fan letter that has been published on the Palermo official website, completely criticising the club, the manager, and even the board. But the club posted it anyway. Very odd, but there you go. That's just Palermo and Zamparini for you. And a story that's come out tonight is that Mihajlovic is going to walk away from Milan in the summer, no matter what. It's a case of who's doing it, because according to some reports, Mihajlovic is walking away because he can't stand Berlusconi and all his interference. And according to others, Berlusconi is just going to sack him because he doesn't think he's done enough.
Italy, folks. That's what happens. And you think he might end up at Lazio?
Yeah, the talk is that he's being lined up to come in at Lazio to replace Pioli. Yes, there we go.
Who seems
Yeah.
to have maybe gone a bit stale. So, yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. Good. And I have to say, probably the return of the Phantom Menace has probably come at a good time with Milan with that news about buying Niang. So, because he got a couple didn't he, against Alessandria in the week.
Yeah, he did. Although, no disrespect to Alessandro, I think I might have had a chance to score if I was playing in the Milan side.
Let's not go too far, but yeah, probably fair. Probably fair. Okay, good. Well, that wraps this week's Serie A then. As usual, any questions, ping them to John, and I'm going to ping to John myself. I'm going to hand over the reins. It's that time again. We're going to skip across to France next, and it's this week's Lyon.
Okay, Chris, starting in Liga this week. First game, we are going to talk about Caen, Danny's Caen, and how they got on against Monaco.
Yes, I'm happy to report that I did say this would be Game of the Week, and huzzah, it probably was Game of the Weekend. Well, you can have debates with others, but it was a very good game anyway.
Yeah, you're fibbing a little bit, aren't
you? A little bit, but it was very entertaining, has to be said. First half, not so good. Second half, really, really good. Monaco coming into the game in second, and Caen sort of flirting with these Champions League places. They actually started the game in fourth and ended up a little bit lower after the weekend results. But no, it was a really, really entertaining game. Two sides that didn't really want to settle for a point, but Caen getting away with a point in the end. They're kind of still struggling, to be fair, with their form. It ended 2-2. And Monaco actually went ahead a lovely free kick from Limar, putting them in front. Julien Ferre got an equaliser from the penalty spot after a pretty poor handball. And then Yaya scored an own goal. Some absolutely brilliant footwork from Bernardo Silva, the Portuguese winger. Sort of a double take, flip-flop move on the edge of the 6-yard box, crossing, and Yaya put it into his own net. But then would you know it, Kouakou, that's how you pronounce it, scored with a bicycle kick in the 89th minute. What a way to get an equaliser, and it'll probably feel like a point game for Caen given the circumstances. But it was kind of one of those results for Caen. I mean, they're still struggling at home, which is a bit odd. Only 3 wins from their last 10, but they are staying the course. And then as for Monaco, only 3 defeats in 22 away from home, which is pretty decent. Given the fact that their home stadium is often inhabited by about 6 people and a dog, they probably enjoy playing away from home a lot more. So good result for Monaco. Just sort of edges them a little bit further ahead into second place, and you can't rule out Caen for a European spot.
Very impressive. On to Michel's Marseille. How did they get on against the slightly always confusing Toulouse?
Yeah, Toulouse, yeah, indeed. Well, I'll touch on Toulouse in a second, but they've had a managerial change over the past week. But just after we finished recording last week, always happens, doesn't it? But they went into this game really. I mean, they are starting to get cut adrift. But it was kind of the battle of two sides that you just don't know what you're going to get. However, what you do know that you will get from Marseille is when they're playing at home, they're not going to be very good. And once again, they were pretty poor. They haven't won at home since September. Now, given the fact we are now in March, that is quite the record. For such a beautiful ground and such a club with such a history, it's a mess. Michel is clueless. I don't know if any of you guys have seen the quotes this week, but he was saying that if Real Madrid come knocking, he'd find it hard to resist the temptation to join them. Yeah, good luck with that one. He then went on to say that the only job he would leave Marseille for was the Spanish national team. Yeah, good luck with that one. I don't think his phone has been busy, so I think it's safe to say that he will be staying at Marseille until he's sacked in the summer, which is what I fully expect to happen. The guy just doesn't seem to have a clue. He doesn't have any tactical nous. He doesn't seem to set the side up well. And Marseille are choking. They really are. They can't. All their shots are rushed. All their attacking skill is down to now Stephen Fletcher and Michy Batshuayi. Enough said. And even the goal that they got from the game was an equaliser. The game actually ended 1-1. I should say that at this point. But Toulouse actually took the lead with Sam Ben Yedder scoring, and they looked fairly comfortable at that stage and with the better side. They were a lot more fluid under their new coach, which again I'll touch on in a second. And then Fletcher was credited with the goal, then taken off him, and now appears to have been given back to him. I'm not really sure it is his goal. To me, it was an own goal, but nevertheless, it ended 1-1. And Marseille, I mean, I don't know what to say about them. As far as Toulouse, as I say, it's a good point normally away to Marseille, but in their situation, they needed a bit more.
Disappointing then. Now, moving on to Rennes against Nantes, the man that everyone is talking about at the moment, Ousmane Dembélé, put on quite the show.
He did. This kid he's fantastic. I'm going to put my neck on the line. I did say a few months ago, for those of you that are still with us from the beginning, that this kid's going to be a star, and now everyone's jumping on the bandwagon. So damn you, everyone! But he is fantastic. Pace, skill, drive. He just really is a talent. And Rennes are capitalising on it, and I think they're getting out of him as much as they can before he is inevitably sold for a lot of money. Scouts from Chelsea, from Tottenham, from Arsenal, from Barcelona even are looking at him, and I'm going to make a claim now. I'm going to say this kid's going to be the new Nicolas Anelka. I'm going to put that one right out there. So if I'm wrong, which I usually am, to be fair, but that's what I'm going to say. And he was just fantastic, and as were Rennes. I mean, they've won three of their last 4 at home, which is definitely good for them. The only slight worry I would say is that if Dembélé isn't on his game, they do look a little bit fragile. So his form is going to be vital. As for Nantes, just kind of surprising really. They were just totally smashed. It's their first defeat in 14, and it was totally out of the blue. They're usually kind of defensively good. They're they're set up pretty well away from home, and they don't usually ship goals. Certainly not 4 of them. And they just met Rennes on a day where Dembélé just took them apart, and they had no answer. Another goal for Kamil Krasicki as well, and he always enjoys a goal from the bench. Well, he actually got one from the start today. So really good result for Rennes. The only downside being the double booking for Giovanni Sio, who's now going to miss a game. But you can't count Rennes out. They're 5th in Liga now, and they might just make the European spots and make Rich Allen, our former interview guest, a very happy man.
There you go, listeners. Ousmane Dembélé will go to a club, have a fantastic season, bugger off to Real Madrid, be useless for 8 years, and then when he's 30, he'll start playing football again. Anyway, not bitter at all. Lastly, talk about Lyon, who actually tried to outdo Rennes with their scoreline this week.
Yeah, they did. Well, Rennes obviously winning 4-1, and Lyon ending up winning 5-1. And it's fair to say that all is rosy in the Lyon garden once again. They've got players back in form. Alexander Lacazette is certainly back in somewhere approaching his best form. Max Cornet is starting to look like a footballer. Rachid Ghazal is really, really impressing right now, and he is a little bit streaky, but the talent's definitely there. And very importantly, I think Sergi Darder, who Tom will know a bit about from his days at Malaga, is an immensely talented 21-year-old. He probably scored goal of the season, as we mentioned last week against PSG. If you haven't seen that, please do look it up. But that midfield is just clicking, and defensively they seem to have put things back together. Interesting stats since they've moved into their Parc d'Olympique or Stade de Lumière, whichever you prefer. That they've really found the groove. They scored 19 goals in their 6 home games since coming into that stadium, so it seems to be a bit of a fortress. And of course, the news breaking this week that Nabil Fekir is back in full training. Hurrah! So expect to see him. Apparently, they penciled him in for an early April return to the first team, which should give him just about enough time to worm his way into Deschamps' thinking for the Euros, possibly. But his return, I know we've got a question on it later on, could pose more questions than answers at the moment, because Lyon are really flowing. But a 5-1 victory, absolutely fantastic. As for Guingamp, They just got battered, really. They've conceded 15 goals in their last 4 games, which is not a particularly good run, stating the obvious. And they were without winning 5. And looking at the bottom of Liga, it's a good job that there's at least 2 sides a lot worse than they are, because they're really starting to stink up the joint.
Yeah. Right, so do you want to give us the rest of the scores from Liga?
Yes, I can indeed. So PSG, Klassiker, PSG dropped points. Klassiker, methinks their focus was on Chelsea in the Champions League, because they drew 0-0 at home to Montpellier. Good point for Frederic Ernst and Montpellier there. Angers also drew 0-0 with St Etienne. We mentioned obviously Lyon's draw with Bastia. Nice, they're back to winning ways with a 2-1 victory over Troyes. Not a big surprise, goals for Germain and Traoré in that one. And Lille got a victory over Ram, 2-0. Ronnie Lopez and Eder, who Swansea fans probably won't remember particularly well, but he got a goal. Ronnie Lopez with the other, who's on loan from Manchester City. And good old Gazalek, they got another last-minute equaliser. Mohamed Labi equalising a Diabate goal for Bordeaux away from home, so a very good point for them. And that's where we leave the weekend's action.
Great, and give us the table as it stands now.
I can indeed give you the table. Well, PSG are top. I know that's a shock. They're still on course to wrap up the league title, I think, within the next fortnight. 74 points from 29 games. A goal difference of plus 53. They're doing all right, I think it's fair to say. Monaco are 23 points behind on 51 points in the Champions League spot. Lyon are up to 3rd. They're probably the biggest challengers to Monaco on 45 points. Nice and Rennes tied together in 4th and 5th on 44. Caen make up the top 6 on 43, with St Etienne just outside it. And then at the bottom, looks to me like the 2 that are going to go down are already set. Troyes, well, we all know they're going down. They are the Aston Villa of France on 14 points. And Toulouse still cut adrift on 23 points. I say I will mention the managerial change in a second, but they're 6 points adrift of safety, where Gazalek are on 29 points and Guingamp and Ram just above them on 32. So not over yet as far as the bottom end goes, but it looks to me like that's probably going to be the 2 that will go down.
Just quickly, Tom's got a question about Bastia, actually, before we go to the news section. Tom, if you want to fire away.
Yeah, sure. So basically, earlier in the season, I noticed that Bastia were goddamn awful. I think there was a point where they'd won 1 out of 9 matches and lost all the others at some point. So, and they've had a real turnaround in form. I know you just said about Toulouse and Troyes going down, but that turnaround's quite impressive, and you can definitely consider them safe now, can't you?
Yeah, Ciccolini's appointment seems to have been the turning point. I mean, they've made their home form has been really crucial, and especially down in Corsica, it's notoriously that old cliche, a tricky place to go. They were a bit patchy for a while, but the one thing they do at home is they either win or lose. There's no in between. And they've actually won. They've won their last 4 straight coming into the game with Lorient, where obviously they drew. So that's where, if you think about that, that's what 3, 6, 9, 12. So that's 10 points from those fixtures. So I mean, 12 points from those fixtures. So that's where the turnaround has happened. They've got a settled side. I think, like you, I'd say they're safe now. I can't see them slipping back in. But that managerial change, they did it at the right time, and Ciccolini has got them safe, and that home ground will be a fortress. But up to 11th, having been where they were, is pretty good going.
Cool.
Right, so quickly, Chris, if you could give us a game to watch next week and any news from
yes,
Liga.
I can. Game to watch next week. I couldn't split them, so I've kind of been a bit greedy and picked 2. One is my very own Lorient at home to Marseille, just because I think it will be kind of action-packed, really. Saturday, 4 p.m. And then on Sunday, Rennes versus Lyon. That one could be quite the game to watch. That's the Sunday evening game at 8 p.m. And as far as the news, just a couple of quickies for you. The talented young Monaco striker Kylian Mbappe, it's easy for you and me to say, certainly not for Danny. He's 17 years of age, he's made his breakthrough, got his first league own goal. He has signed a long-term contract with Monaco, so expect to see him maybe make a big move in the future. And as I mentioned in the roundup, Pascal Dupraz has taken charge at Toulouse after they fired their previous manager after a string of bad results. Dominique Arribage was released at the end of last weekend's fixtures, just after we finished recording. So the new manager, Dupraz, is in place. I think he's probably got a tough job on keeping him up, but for the future, he's probably a good appointment.
Oh, Lovely jubbly. That is all of Liga, so I will hand it back over to you, Chris.
Thank you kindly. Right, and again, if you've got any questions on Liga, just pop me a tweet personally or to the podcast account, and I'll do my very best to answer them. And we've got a few questions later on. Right then, off to sunny Spain we go, and it's this week's La Liga. Right, Tom, I know you won't be doing any singing this week because you've got a poorly throat, so let's see if we can rattle through this and save your vocal cords. Now, where shall we start this weekend? You've wanted to start in Villarreal this weekend. What happened there?
But before I start in Villarreal, should we go over the midweek fixtures?
Yes, I should have mentioned that. Sorry, yes, please. Give us, there was a full programme, wasn't there, on
There was indeed.
Thursday?
Yeah.
Give us the results.
Okay, so Atletico won 3-0 against Real Sociedad. Las Palmas continued their great form with a 4-0 win against Getafe. Sevilla won 1-0 at home to Eibar. Celta Vigo drew 0-0 with Villarreal. Valencia amazingly won 2-1 away at Malaga. Bilbao won 4-1 at home to Deportivo. Levante lost 3-1 at home to Real Madrid. Granada, sorry, I tried to go Spanish there, but it failed. Granada won 2-0 at home to Gijón. There you go, a bit of Spanish. Espanyol unfortunately lost 3-0 at home to Betis, and Barcelona trademarkly won 5-1 away at Lyon.
Interesting. Right, now we'll go to Villarreal. Sorry, I jumped again. So they hosted Las Palmas, who have, it's fair to say, surprised a few of late. And I believe it's now 3 wins on the spin for them.
It is. So Las Palmas came to the game on the back of 2 wins against Eibar and Getafe, but this was certainly a step up in El Madrigal. But Villarreal were the team that started on top. Soldado missed a great chance early on, chipping just wide of the goal. And then William Jose for Las Palmas had a great chance, but hit it wide. Las Palmas did take the lead then through David Garcia, a great header that was crossed in by Jonathan Vieira, who's been one of their standout players this season. Villarreal tried to get back into the game. Bakambu missed a header. Gaspar hit a shot just wide, and Araujo for Las Palmas really could have killed it off, and he hit a shot wide as well, and then the game stayed at 1-0, and that's how it finished. So Villarreal have now just won 1 of their last 6 matches, so their form is really stuttering for the team trying to get that Champions League spot.
Yes indeed. And speaking of struggling, Getafe, who played at home to Sevilla on Saturday. I don't think many people expected this to be... Well, I don't think anyone expected Getafe to get anything out of this game, particularly when they fell behind. But
Chris Twaddle.
Indeed, yes. Sure. But a late equaliser from Velasquez got them a point. So why can't Sevilla win away from home?
I don't know. So it was the worst form side in Getafe meeting the worst away side in the league. So obviously it was set up for a brilliant game of football, which it wasn't. But Huita, the Getafe keeper, had a great game in goal. He saved from Vitolo. Vitolo went 1-on-1 with the keeper, and he tried to take it around it, but Huita just got a hand on it. He denied Banega, who had an early second half chance. Eventually, Sevilla did get their goal with Banega actually scoring a free kick, and Huita only could push it into the net. But you think that's the point in the 79th minute where Sevilla have scored, and that's that. They might get their first away win, but it wasn't the case. As you said, Velasquez scored a goal smashing in from a corner, which was really poorly dealt with by Crondelli at fault there. So, again, Sevilla cannot win away, and it is getting quite ridiculous.
Yes, good job they're good at home, isn't it, really? But,
yeah.
Now, a side that can win away from home are Athletic Club or Bilbao, to you and I. They travel to Sporting Gijón, and they've won again.
They did again. Bilbao came in with winning 2 matches, and they played Sporting Gijón, who'd lost their last 2 matches. So it was a great game to come in for Bilbao. It started as the bookies predicted. Bilbao going ahead through a brilliant free kick from Beñat, who's been one of their standout midfielders this season. Snabria, who's been on great form for Gijón themselves, had a great chance and really was poor in his finishing. Spurned it really far wide of Irejo's of his goal. And then in the 59th minute, right back, DeMarco scored an absolute belter, hitting from the right-hand side across the keeper into the left-hand side of the net. Screamer. Go check it out. Probably my goal of the weekend. And that turned out to be the winner. So the biggest shock of that game was Adarith not scoring for once because he got a hat-trick in midweek.
Oh, bless him. And he's still doing the business, isn't he, at that grand old age of whatever he is?
He is.
So, yeah.
35, I think
Bless.
he is now.
And will he? Did we clarify if you think he'll go to the Euros? Do you think he'll make it?
I think he will. Yeah, it doesn't matter how much Del Bosco doesn't like him. When you score that many goals as a striker, you got to go.
Agreed. And the final game we're going to cover is probably if you look at it on paper, the standout fixture of the weekend, Valencia hosting Atletico Madrid. I know Drew's got a question on this game, as has one of our listeners, so I'll come back to that. But how did the game go?
Yeah, so Atleti went to the game without Godin, so their youngster Hernandez stepped in, and he did very well next to Jimenez. I think it really highlighted how Jimenez is such a good centre-back without the likes of the world-class Godin next to him. But it was a lot harder than expected for Atleti. They did go ahead through Griezmann, a great shot from the right-hand side of the box with his left foot into the bottom right-hand corner, set up by Koke. And then the man of the moment for Valencia equalised, Cheryshev, hitting a cross shot against Oblak in goal into the right-hand side. Second half rolled around, and it was that man Torres who's really been in form recently, putting Atleti into the lead. A corner came in, was headed on, and he slid in to finish. So really good form for Torres right now. That was right after one of the saves of the season, I must say. Alves didn't have the best of games, but this was certainly an amazing save from a volley from Vieto, which he reaction saved and parred it onto the crossbar. So that was honestly one of the best saves I've seen. And then Carrasco finished it off to make it 3-1 in the last few minutes. A shot just from the right-hand side of his left foot into the goal, which you could say Alves should have done better, but I think that was it by then. So Atleti do keep up their Barca chase.
Yeah, Alves, that third goal was, he might have made that brilliant save, but Christ on a bike, that effort, I think, is the only way I can describe it, to save the third was pretty poor. Right, Drew has a question. Before I let him ask it, we also had a very similar question from Janzeb Shaheen, our good friend. He says, was Valencia too big a step for Neville? Can't seem to catch a break. And on that very same vein, Drew, you have a question for Tom.
I don't think it's a similar question, but it's about Valencia. I think about what I've seen from them in Europa League, how well they move in the final third, the type of players they have in the final third, but yet they still struggle to score goals in La Liga, even though they've only allowed 33, which isn't that bad. They've only scored 33, and for a club that has players like Santi Mina who are very gifted, why do you think they struggle going forward, and how do you think they'll fix that?
They struggle going forward because they've only really got one outlet of goals at the moment, which is Paco Alcacer. I mean, they got Negredo, but he fires so many chances over the goal and wide, it's unbelievable. They brought in the likes of Bacali and Santi Mina, who are really promising youngsters, but they're more creators than scorers, and since bringing in Cheryshev, they've really lacked the goals. So they're improving with that, and hopefully they should be able to get Cheryshev in on a permanent in the summer, because it's certainly possible. In terms of Janzeb's question about Gary Neville, it certainly was a huge step up to take that job. They're one of the biggest teams in Spain. I know they weren't doing too well, but I think that he stepped in at the deep end, and it has hit him harder than he thought it might have.
A ton of you-know-what, so to speak, yeah. It is funny when he plays good sides. It seems to be when they struggle, but hey-ho. Right, give us the other results from the weekend's roundup.
Okay, so Real Madrid won big at home, Ronaldo scoring 4 with 2 screamers, and one of them was finally a free kick. He's actually scored one. Pepe, Hesse and Bale scored the other ones, with Aspas scoring for Celta. Deportivo sent help. They can't help but draw, even when they score 3 goals at home. Borges Cantabria, who I'm sure you'll hear more about in a bit, and Lucas Perez the scorers, and Charles Camacho and Alan Ribas late 89th equaliser, which was an own goal, meant the draw accolade is still there in Depor. Betis' good form continued. 2 late goals from Ndiaye and Castro, with Vargas and Fernandez getting red cards for either side, which, Chris, I'm sure you loved watching that game, didn't you? Barcelona condemned Eibar to their 4th straight loss. Messi braced, and the Suarez and Munir strikes got 4 up for them this time. Sociedad were left frustrated, drawing 1-1 at home to struggling Levante. Reyes and getting the goal Real Sociedad, but Davison's great header equalised, and Vela and Bruma had great chances to win it but couldn't take them. Tonight's game saw my boys Espanyol get back on track with the 2-1 win against Rayo. Asensio got another assist, Abraham scoring that chance, Bebe of all people got the equaliser, and then Perez got the 77th minute winner, thankfully. Great unbiased description there. Victor Sanchez unfortunately got sent off late for Espanyol, but that won't deter them from the win.
Speaking of sending off, I know Ignacio Camacho got 2 yellows for Malaga, but it's good to see him back. He's a player I really like.
Yeah, but you can almost guarantee they'll lose the next game now without him.
Especially without he scored as well, didn't he? So, give us the table with those results from the weekend.
Okay, so the top 6 I'm doing now because it's so close with the top 4. Barca, Atleti, Real Madrid and Villarreal, 72, 64, 60 and 53. The 4 to 6 is where it's close. Villarreal I said on 53, but Sevilla have caught them slightly 8 points behind now, but better in form on 45. And Bilbao 1 point behind Sevilla on 44. The bottom, we're going down now. I'm only doing the bottom 6. Levante, Gijon, Granada, Rayo, Getafe and Espanyol, respectively 21 points, 24, 26. Also 26, Rayo 27 and Espanyol on 28, who've gone down with Las Palmas, I must say, have gone up to 14th. Who would have thought that? On 30 points. So that's 10 points separating 18th and 8th in the league.
Actually there, because Espanyol with their win tonight, 31 points now.
Oh yeah, that's Sockaway mugging me
so
off.
They're up to 14, but you're right, yeah. Point is should be safe now, so that's good for your boys. Who's or what game do you anticipate being a good one to tune in for this weekend?
Yes, that was a bit of a tricky situation because there wasn't great games on this weekend, but the clear one is Sevilla-Villarreal, just seeing if Sevilla can get the home form going and Villarreal in such bad form. But if you want to watch goals, go watch Barcelona against Getafe. I'm sure you get millions there.
And just briefly, because I know there isn't any news this week, what's your thoughts on Real and Roma? Do you give Roma any hope? Do you think Real are going to steamroll them? What do you reckon?
They'll probably score because Real cannot defend to save their lives, but they outscore everyone, so I'm sure they'll be fine.
There's a couple of Spanish teams in Europa as well this week, so keep an eye out for that as well. Villarreal, is there another one? Sevilla?
Bilbao, Villarreal, Valencia, and Sevilla.
There you go, so tune in for those. Okay, I know we'll be back to you again in a little while, Tom. We have some more questions from our lovely listeners, so I'll be back to you again shortly.
I'm going to chug down some water now.
Living the dream. Right then, let's go to Germany then, and we'll wrap up our tour around the Big Four, and we'll come to Drew for this week's Bundesliga. Right then, Drew, let's start. Now, everyone's going to expect us to talk about one game, which we're not going to talk about until. So let's start with a different game, and we'll start with Stuttgart, who were playing host to Hoffenheim under Nagelsmann, who got their first win last week. This one didn't go quite so well, though.
No, it really didn't. Stuttgart got back on track after losing 2 in a row. They won 5-1 at home. Not what Nagelsmann wanted to go, the result he wanted to go on the road. It's the response Jurgen Kramny would have wanted after they struggled late. So Georg Niedermeyer, who we were reflecting before, may have been considered a flop in the Bundesliga necessarily. He opened the scoring on the 5th minute. Lucas Rupp scored on 42, really put it to bed at that point. Niedermeyer actually bagged a brace on 51 minutes. Andrea Kramaric, we'll know him from Leicester City, pegged one back for Hoffenheim on 73, but then Philipp Kostic and Timo Werner both netted late on, sealing all 3 points. It's, again, from Stuttgart, you'll see the sort of performance they want to put in. They keep going to their bread and butter. They keep playing on a counterattack under Kramny since he's come in. A 4-1-4-1 that transitions into a 4-3-3 on the break with Kostic and Rupp being employed on the flanks, and Timo Werner comes in through the middle. Nagelsmann kept faith in the 3-4-1 it did not work out very well, especially against a side who were going to counter like Stuttgart. He needed to put a lot of faith in Jeremy Toljan and Kaderabek on the wings on the flat 4 midfield, but it actually it just did not work. So he's got a little bit of tactical tinkering to do. I don't know if he sees Hoffenheim necessarily avoiding a drop, so I think he's trying to really figure out what works for him since arriving there. And clearly this wasn't really it. But hats off to Stuttgart. They still look like they're going to keep climbing up the table. They actually sit 11th right now, even despite losing 2 in a row before that. So much improved from them continuously, and getting the best out of the key players that I've mentioned on previous weeks. So all things good still going for them. So yeah.
Good turnaround for them indeed. Let's talk about Augsburg, who a certain player has made Team of the Week after a pretty sensational performance. But Augsburg, they'll be kicking themselves after this result, surely.
I think that would be putting it lightly. When you're up 3-0 and then in the last 30 minutes you choke and you end up and getting only a draw through 3 in front of your home support, Marcus Reinzel will not be happy at all. We have a similar experience as Arsenal fans with that fantastic 4-4 draw against Newcastle a couple seasons back, so this is almost kind of on par. When through 57 minutes, it was 3-0, and then Karim Bellarabi pegged one back on 60 minutes, and then a Paul Verhaeg own goal on 80 minutes, which is uncharacteristic from him, put Leverkusen within striking distance, and Hakan Çalhanoğlu with a penalty and stoppage time. So there's no worse way to give up all 3 points than in that manner. But Cha Jil-koo actually bagged the hat trick for Augsburg, so a very good showing from him. But it's definitely points lost, unfortunately, for them. But despite that, they're still above relegation at the moment. 2 points ahead of Eintracht Frankfurt, who sit in 16th, and they're tied on level on points with Darmstadt, who are at 15th. But Augsburg has the better goal difference, given they scored 5 more goals. Still some positives you find from that. The fact that they're beginning to score more goals now, which is very, very good. They're no longer in Europa League, so Weinzero can focus on just avoiding the drop this season. Clearly, they're not going to reach the dizzying heights of 5th like they did last year, but at least he can concentrate on the improved performances throughout the side. They do still have to work on creating chances. I mean, they took their chances well this game, but honestly, Leverkusen created double the chances they did. So it should. Unfortunate, but points are points, and position as real can you expect.
Yeah, so it's a good one for the neutral, at least, I suppose we could say that much. Speaking of sides that you'd think would be improving, and they seem to have been recently, that brings us on to Schalke, who went away to a tricky-looking tie against Köln, and they came out 3-1 winners.
Well, it's a tale of 2 different spells of form. Schalke have 2 wins, 2 draws in their last 4, and Köln have lost 3 of their last 4. Another one's been a draw. So you actually back your money on Schalke on this one, and if you did, you were correct. They ran out 3-1 winners away. Klaas and Huntelaar opened scoring on 2 minutes, so you kind of had a feeling that may be one of those days. Max Meyer doubled the lead on 23. Leonardo Bittencourt actually pulled one back on 33 minutes, but then Franco Di Santo put the match to bed on 76 minutes. Hold on a second. Sorry, Chris. We've seen before from Schalke that they're very inconsistent, but lately they've been doing much better. I think they've finally figured out that Pierre-Emile Holberg needs to be giving more responsibility in midfield. He's been starting more from the off for them, and he's been improving match on match. And we saw from him last year with his loan spell at Augsburg how good he can be. And him next to Johannes Geis in midfield could be very, very effective moving forward. I think that might be a key for them. They look solid at the back. Ralf Farman had a good performance. Basically, no one really performed poorly except the players that came off the bench. Kolasinac and Leroy Sané came off the bench. Neither really performed well, but De Santo got a goal off the bench. Yunus Belhanda seems that he hit the bar. He also could have had a goal. Now that he's settled after his loan move, he had the first 2 matches he played were not that great, but now that he's found his feet at the club, I think he actually might look for a permanent move in the summer to them. He seems to be meshing well with Max Meyer and Alessandro Schraub. So improved from them. Not so good from Peter Stoger and Cole on this performance, honestly. Again, I mentioned before they've lost 3 of their last 4. They're still 6 points ahead of the relegation zone, but honestly, they were much, much better in the Hinrunde, and they should have some concerns moving forward, but they've only scored 26 goals, so that's going to be a concern for sure.
Yeah, they need to get Lucas Podolski back. Maybe that's maybe not. The final game of the weekend we want to talk about is Hamburg, and a player that I quite like actually, Nikolai Müller. He proved to be the hero against a pretty decent Hertha Berlin side, it has to be said, off recent form, but yeah, the 2 goals from Muller getting the victory for Hamburg.
Hamburg played out of their skin, and this was far and away Hertha's worst performance of the season. They only could manage 3 total shots all match. Hamburg just ran them right through the ground, and they probably should have more goals, but it's Hamburg, and they struggle in that regard, especially when you have Artem Rudnitz leading the line. But Nikolai Müller, 2 goals from the right side of midfield. He's been playing very, very well. Lewis Holtby had another very good performance in that Celtic as well. Ekdal next to him played very well also. Kleber, who not a lot of people talk about at center back, has been improving his performances, and he was, if you follow Who Scored, which I do sometimes, not all the time because they're inconsistent, but he actually got man of the match, and he was absolutely brilliant for them apparently. It's an improved performance from Bruno Labbadia's men, and they've been also one of those inconsistent teams we've mentioned this season already, but definitely a little bit of a disaster performance from Hertha. They now only sit 1 point ahead of Schalke for that final Champions League spot because of this performance. So they need to bounce back quickly. I don't know. A little bit disappointing from them, but it's not the end of the world. So.
Hamburg, as you say, I didn't see that one coming, if I'm honest. Give us the other results from the weekend, and then we'll just quickly touch on the Klassiker as well.
Sure. Okay. Wolfsburg, as John mentioned, Wolfsburg won 2-1 against Mönchengladbach. Bremen won 4-1 at home to Hanover, and Hanover continued to be absolutely woeful. Eintracht Frankfurt and Ingolstadt drew 1-1. Borussia Dortmund and Bayern Munich drew 0-0, but we'll mention that a little bit better later on, rather. And Mainz and Darmstadt drew 0-0. That's a bit of a disappointing performance for Mainz, who, if they actually pulled off 3 points, they could have moved up to 4th for the final Champions League spot over Schalke. So, yeah. Did you want me to mention the midweek fixtures as well?
Midweek fixtures, so yeah, please do just rattle through those results for us. So, my bad.
Sure. Wolfsburg won 4-0 at Hanover. Ingolstadt and Cologne drew 1-1. Dortmund traveled to Darmstadt, won 2-0. Hertha Berlin won 2-0 over Eintracht Frankfurt. Hoffenheim won 2-1 over Augsburg. Mainz upset Bayern Munich in Munich, 2-1 on the road. Schalke won 3-2 in a shootout at home against Hamburg. Werder Bremen stomped Bayer Leverkusen 4-1. And Gladbach, as John mentioned also before, put Stuttgart to the sword, won 4-0. So yeah.
Right. Give us the table first of all, and then we will touch on a question from John about the big game of the weekend.
No problem. Bayern's top still, 63 points in first. Dortmund are second on 58. Hertha third on 42. Schalke fourth on 41. Mainz fifth on 40. Gladbach sixth on 39. And then bottom of the table, Eintracht Frankfurt 16th on 24. Hoffenheim 17th on 21. And Hanover 18th on 17.
Hanover are gone. So we had the Der Klassiker, as some people like, some people don't like that tag. But it ended in a 0-0 draw, high intensity. Obviously, there's been a lot of talk about the Joshua Kimmich Guardiola discussion at the end, shall we put it that way? And of course, the stat that's gone around that this was the least amount of possession a Guardiola managed team has ever had against him. Now, John has a question, so I'm going to pass it to John to ask away.
Sure.
Yeah, it's just I just thought Dortmund were very good in the game, and obviously it was a great game despite it being 0-0. I just wondered whether you thought, Drew, if Dortmund had actually won the game, whether they'd be able to genuinely challenge Bayern for the title this season.
I think it's very possible. Over the last 6 matches, Bayern's dropped points in 3 of them. One of them coming in that loss against Mainz, and then 2 draws as well. Dortmund are a bit better in form. Honestly, though, the one issue though for me is that, like I've always said all season long, Bayern leak fewer goals than Dortmund does. So even if they're not really on form, if they have a poor performance when it comes to how many goals to score moving forward, sometimes Bayern can scrape a 1-0, where a lot of times Dortmund, if they're up 1-0, they're a little bit shaky at the back end, and you'd be more worried about them leaking that equalizer, even worse, going on to losing that match. So I think Bayern still have most of the cards in their hand, but over the next couple of weeks, you never really know. With Champions League still going on, Dortmund might be reinvigorated by doing well in Europa League, so you never really know. They're only 5 points behind with 9 matches to go, so anything is possible, honestly.
Cool.
Yeah, it's definitely a surprise. 0-0 seemed a bit of a surprise, but nevertheless, it was a good, entertaining 0-0. So we've got to say that much. What game do you want to pick out to focus in for the weekend's action, Drew?
Dortmund versus Mainz. I'm trying not to be biased because I do love my Dortmund, but Mainz still one of the informed sides in the Bundesliga. They're 4-1-1 in their last 6, and they're really trying to stake a claim for that they should be taken seriously, and they can actually make a run for not only that last Champions League spot, but maybe actually making a run for a Europa League spot. So it's going to be a big test. They already went to Bayern and won 2-1 on the road, so you never really know if they can pull off another upset in Dortmund. So we'll see.
And before we leave Germany, there has been a sacking, stroke dismissal, stroke parting of ways.
Yes, there has. Armand Vey has been sacked by Eintracht Frankfurt. It's really not really necessarily shocking to me, to be honest. They sit 16th. He was very successful at maybe other postings in his past, but he's just not getting the best out of them. And while they've drawn 3 out of the last 4, they still haven't won, and I can't even recall how long. They just don't look very good right now. And honestly, I would put them at the moment for being threatened for relegation. So that change had to be made with enough time to maybe to salvage their season. So you never really know, but I think it was a long time coming. So yeah.
It does seem that way. Okay, super. Well, thank you very much as usual, Drew. And again, a couple of questions from our listeners, so we will be back to you again shortly.
Surely.
Right, we shall move on then, and this is the part where I talk really fast to try and get as much information across to our lovely listeners as possible, and it is this week's Best of the Rest. Right then, now lots to cover, so let's get straight on with it. We're going to start the best of the rest this week with Scotland. Yes, Scotland, they do play football in Scotland. It does happen. Celtic are top of the league. Now, normally you'd say that's not really a big surprise. However, they are only 4 points clear of Aberdeen. That means title race. Yes, there is a title race. This weekend, it's kind of looking at the fixtures ahead. Could be quite pivotal. Aberdeen have actually got a game in midweek on Tuesday away at Partick Thistle. So you could think they could put pressure on Celtic in the coming games. So definitely a title race. As far as the rest of the league, Heart and Midlothian and Ross County in 3rd and 4th. There's quite a big gap. Heart's 53 points, Ross County 39. So pretty big gap there. As far as the bottom, Dundee United, surprisingly to me, struggling. Bottom of the league on 20 points. Kilmarnock 28. Hamilton Academical, easy for me to say, on 30 points. And Inverness Caledonian Thistle on 33. And as you know, or you may not know, the Scottish League sort of divides in half towards the end of the season. So we shall see where that goes. So that is Scotland, for those of you that are interested, or indeed can. Let's take a quick trip into Portugal. I kind of do this every week now because it is Liga NOS, the most exciting league in Europe, surely, because it's really tight at the top. Benfica, they played against Sporting. It's the old Jorge Jesus game where he was playing the team that obviously made his name at, and there's lots of bad feeling and yada yada yada. And Benfica got the points. A massive win for Benfica away at Sporting, no less. And that means the title race is very much between two, because Porto kind of pooed the bed. They lost 3-1 away at Sporting Braga, who are the team in 4th. And Iker Casillas doing his very best Manuel Almunia impression for the 3rd goal, where he just went walkabouts and got chipped from about 35 yards. So that was fun. Do look that one up. Also, look up Brian Ruiz's miss from roughly 4 yards with a gaping net in front of him. So yeah, that was not good for Sporting, who lost the game. And also, they had their captain Andre Silva sent off towards the end when he protested that Renato Sanchez should have walked. So the title race now, as I say, Benfica have replaced Sporting at the top on 61. Sporting now 2nd on 59. And Porto with that defeat at Braga at 55. They're looking over their shoulder now. Braga in 4th and 47. Down at the bottom, Tondela doomed 13 points. Boa Vista in the other relegation spot on 21. And then they're just a point behind Academica on 22 and União Madeira on 25. So that's Portugal. Couple more, stay with me people. The MLS, hey, American soccer is back, and wasn't it back? We had lots of goals this weekend in the opening round. A couple of highlight fixtures to pull out for you. My Chicago Fire, boo, lost at home to Patrick Vieira's New York City FC in a 4-3 thriller. It could easily have been 12-all. Chicago Fire got 1 penalty, should have had 5. I'm not even exaggerating. Go and have a look at the highlights. Another amazing finish to a game. Orlando City, Kakas Orlando City, I should say, although he didn't play. They were 2-0 down to Real Salt Lake, going into injury time, and 2 goals in the 93rd minute from Lyon and Winter got them a point. Quite surprising. A red card apiece in that game as well. Elsewhere, a couple of sides to look out for. Dallas got their season off to a flyer with a 2-0 victory over Philadelphia Union. Castillo and Urruti with the goals, 2 players that I don't think will be there long term. New York Red Bulls lost at home to Toronto FC. Here's one for John. Sebastian Javinko, only 28, believe it or not. He got the opener on 82 minutes from the penalty spot. The Portland Timbers, Danny's Portland Timbers, 2-1 victory. Diego Valeri and Adi with the goals. In between an Higuain, not that one, his brother. Goal for the Crew, ended 2-1. Montreal Impact went to their rivals Vancouver Whitecaps and came up with a 3-2 victory. The Seattle Sounders lost at home to Sporting KC, surprising there. And the LA Galaxy got their season off to a flyer with a 4-1 victory over DC United. Quite a big victory, that. And also one extra result. So the San Jose Earthquakes, they beat Colorado Rapids 1-0. Why do I mention this? Well, just because Wondolowski, he's still alive, he's still scoring goals, God bless him. He got the winner directly after the halftime whistle. So that's a quick roundup of MLS. We will keep flitting in and out of that as the season progresses, and obviously there's only been 1 game so far, so I can't really give you, no point giving you tables or any of that. And finally, we'll just quickly run through the Copa Libertadores. A few people have asked us about this. It's in the early stages of the group stage, but there has been a couple of results sort of gone through, so I'm just going to give you the tables of the groups very quickly. Group 1, the strongest from Bolivia, they are top, they played 2-1-2, 6 points. River Plate, second. Sao Paulo and Trualhos are bottom in that group. Elsewhere, Group 2, Palmeiras and River Plate are Palmeiras are top on 4 points, River Plate Nacional on 2 points, Rosario Central or Central are bottom on 1 point. Then Group 3, Racing Club are top 4 points, Bolivar 3 points, Boca Juniors 2, Deportivo Cali 1. Group 4, Atlético Nacional 6 points, Huracan 3 points, Penarol 1, Sporting Cristal 1. These are all after 2 games. Atletico Mineiro are on top of Group 5. Colo are second on 4 points. Independiente also on 4. Melgar, who I've got to be honest, never even heard of. They played 3 games. In fact, Melgar lost all 3, so they're bottom. Group 6, Toluca are 4 points top. Gremio second, 3. LDU Quito 3. And San Lorenzo bottom on 1. Group 7, Pumas Unam of Mexico. They are top 6 points for their 2 games. MLX second, Deportivo Teixeira third, and Olympia bottom on 0. And the final group, Group 8, Corinthians of Brazil top, play 2-1-2, 6 points. Cerro Porteño 4 points from their 2 games. Santa Fe 1 point, and Cobresal bottom on no points. So that's where we are on the Copa Libertadores. That's an ongoing tournament, and again we'll probably just check in with that once or twice here and there, so that we can keep you across it. It's a very complicated system, and there's lots of games. So it's very early stages. Anyone that has any particular questions about that, please do let us know, and we'll do our very best to keep you across that particular tournament. Right, there we go. That's the best of the rest for another week done and dusted. Sorry, I have to talk really fast, so hopefully all of that got through. Right, we'll move on then, and it's time to introduce you to another star of the future, and it's this week's Hipsters Choice. Okay, this week I've decided to take a trip to Portugal. And this week we're going to bring into focus a player for FC Porto, and it is midfielder Ruben Neves. So, what do we know about Ruben Neves? Well, first of all, he doesn't have a Twitter account. Sorry, boys and girls. His full name, Ruben Diego da Silva Neves. He's born on the 13th of March in 1997. That makes him 18 years of age. Sickening, I know. He is Portuguese. He's 5'11", and he weighs 176 pounds. He's Porto's number 6. He plays in the midfield. He has a right-footed predominantly, and he wears the Nike Tempo Legend 6 boots. He does have an Instagram, you'll be happy to know, so if you want to stalk him on Instagram, feel free. It's Ruben DS Neves, if you want to stalk him there. and we will be, of course, posting a YouTube video of his bits and bobs as well. So what do we know about him? Well, he was born in Portugal.
Posting a video of
Not
what?
his bits and bobs. Sorry, not his bits.
Oh, you need to reword that,
Post
sorry.
some of his highlights. There we go, that's much better. So he was born in Mosilos in Portugal, 20 kilometres away from Porto itself. In fact, he joined the youth system aged 8, and he's slated by PAS, Porto's under-19 team, to move straight into the reserves in the 2014-15 season. An injury to Mikel Agual resulted in him being called up to the first team by manager Julian Lopetegui, and on August the 15th, 2014, he made his Primera Liga debut at 17 years, 5 months. And he started the 2-0 home victory over Maritimo and scored, becoming the youngest player in Porto's history to score in the league. 5 days later, he came on in the Champions League playoff game versus Lyon, becoming the youngest Portuguese player to appear in the competition, eclipsing Cristiano Ronaldo. Never heard of him. Despite stiff competition from Porto's midfield, signing Gianelli and Bulla, who now of course is in Stoke, and of course the Portuguese internationals Danilo and Andre, and the Mexican Hector Herrera, but Neves was actually still making 37 appearances in the 2014-15 season, so he obviously made an impression. Thus far in 2015-16, he's made 16 appearances, 4 League Cup appearances, 1 goal, 6 Champions League appearances, and 2 Europa League appearances. And in October 2015, aged just 18 years, 221 days, he made Champions League history, captaining Porto to a 2-0 victory over Maccabi Tel Aviv, becoming the youngest captain in the competition's history. It's quite a nice little record for him. Under Lopetegui, he was employed as a more defensive midfielder in Porto's 4-3-3 formation. But when Lopetegui is sacked after failing any major silverware in 2014, a series of bad results during the first half of the season, he was replaced by Jose Pizarro, who to date has largely kept him in the 4-3-3 system and occasionally on the 4-2-3-1 formation as well. And he's represented Portugal at all levels. In the 2014 season, he was captain of the under-17s and also captain at the under-17 championship, the European Championship, helping his country reach the semi-finals, and was named among the top 10 talents in the tournament by a selection of UEFA reporters. And after 10 appearances for the under-21s and 2 goals, he was called up to the senior squad for friendlies against Russia and Luxembourg in November 2015 after an injury to João Moutinho. Ruben Neves also impresses with his passing precision, his vision and his astute positioning, showing great maturity for his young age. He uses a footballing flexible intelligence, and as such he's drawn comparisons to the likes of Andrea Pirlo or Busquets of Barcelona, so no pressure there. Teammate Christian Tello has made these sort of reviews of him, if you like. And Neves, largely, he sits as a deep line playmaker and he's tasked with dictating the pace of play. He plays the role quite well and always seems to get the ball out of his feet and passes quickly, which is something football has certainly lost nowadays. And if you had to pick out any weaknesses in his game, it could be the dearth of goals. Although he possesses a powerful and accurate shot, he lacks the pace to drive forward into the box, and on a consistent basis at that. Although in a more defensive midfield role, this isn't necessarily the focus of the game. Just a couple of quick stats. We struggled to get league stats, so we've pulled out the Champions League stats instead. So of the 6 appearances, 471 minutes this season, no goals, 1 assist, no yellows, no reds. Average pass percentage of 57.3%, success rate of 85.5, 2.5 average tackles per game, 2 interceptions, and crosses, averages 1.5 crosses per game. And his overall rating, according to WhoScored.com, is 7.09. So there we go, that is Ruben Neves. He's obviously been linked with a whole host of European clubs, so I'm just going to get a quick sort of quick nudge. I'm going to go to Tom actually, to get Tom's opinion, because being a Portuguese player, Tom, you would think the logic would suggest that he could fit quite nicely into the Spanish system. Do you think he's a player that could potentially play for one of the big clubs in Spain, or do you think he's more of a kind of a Malaga, Valencia kind of type player maybe?
To move now, obviously, more Valencia, Malaga. Maybe not Valencia, he's probably a bit bigger than them by now. But no, he's an industrial midfielder. As we know, as a defensive midfielder, being compared to Busquets is very high praise indeed. But I don't see why he couldn't move on. He's got a lot of potential. He's still very young. I mean, he's below 20 years old, and he's obviously gonna have a bright future if he's already playing out and out week in week out for Porto. So I'm sure the guy will have a bright future, and maybe in Spain. There's no reason why not. But I know that Arsenal have been linked to him, so you never know.
Absolutely. And just on that, John, I'll ask you for your thoughts quickly. Do you think he's a player that obviously Arsenal were looking to replace Sandy Cazorla type of player? Do you like what you've seen of Neves? Do you think he potentially could get to that level in the Premier League?
Yeah, it's a possibility. Whether he's ready for that now is a different thing. I think probably a more sensible move.
Oh, and we've lost John. John has died. John has
John's
died.
gone.
Drew, pick up the reins. Tell us.
What did I just? Where were we? Because I wasn't paying
right.
attention.
John got taken by the robots, Drew. So I was just wondering about your thoughts on Ruben Neves. I'll change the question slightly. Do you think potentially he could make it in a Bundesliga side? Because obviously it's a bit more high-paced, maybe a bit more physical. Is there any sides in the Bundesliga you think could do with a player like him?
I think so. I think he has the ingredients to succeed wherever he goes. I don't know, players from the Portuguese league usually make a jump and either they turn into a brilliant player or they completely flop. But I feel like
Jackson Martinez.
Exactly. I was waiting for that, Tom. But I think when you have so many top European clubs scouting him and potentially establishing a bidding war for him this summer, I think he'll make the grade. And I think I could see him at someone who would be at his level long term. I don't think he would ever make a move to someone like a Schalke or something. I think he would go immediately into a side like Dortmund or maybe even a side like Bayern, because he has a very high potential ceiling over the long term. So I think that's the move he would want. He might get it. Who knows where league he'll end in? But I think he's the type of player that will succeed wherever he goes, no matter where it is.
Good stuff. And God knows what's happened to John. Don't know what league he'll be in because at the moment, he's flown off the stratosphere. We'll get John back quickly as soon as we can. Right, so there you go. That's this week's Hipsters Choice. As I say, I will post some highlights of Ruben Neves on our Twitter feed. So do keep your eyes peeled for that. And of course, we will add him, indeed the timestamp as well, to our website. So if you do want to listen back to me waffling on for a little while, then you can feel free to do so via our website. And as always, thank you to Kelly for the hard hours of research. Much appreciated. I should say at this point I'm going to make a quick announcement as well. With regards to the Hipster's Choice, as of now, or as of this episode, we're actually going to give you guys a little bit of a treat. I say treat. We're going to announce who we're going to be doing with the Hipster's Choice the following week, each week. So I can exclusively reveal that next week, anyone that is a fan of French football or Lyon, or maybe Algeria, I don't know, it could be any of the three. Next week's Hipster's Choice will be Rachid Ghazal of Lyon. So if anyone has any questions about Rachid Ghazal or anything they particularly want to be highlighted in the write-up, give us a tweet and we will do our very best. So there we go. Right, let's move on then, and we will go to this week's Team of the Week. Righto, so this is my opportunity, as usual, to pick out some players that I think have had a particularly good week, and we'll put them into a formation. And this week we have decided to go for, it's a shame John's not with us at the moment, because I've gone with the old Italian kind of system. It's a bit of a 3-4-3. So, without any further ado then, let's start with the squad.
John's back, by the way.
There we go, brilliant. Right then, so this week's squad, I have gone for, in goal, David Ospina of Arsenal. Many goalkeeping performances were excellent this week, but I thought Ospina just about got the nod with a superb performance in the North London derby, with a record 9 saves, I think I'm right in saying. So he gets the nod in goal. And Gorg, or Gorg, whichever you prefer, Niedermeyer from Stuttgart, scored twice from centre-back and pretty much dominated the game defensively in a 5-1 victory. Good day for him. Mats Hummels, that's another German in the old back line. He put in a pretty decent performance, has to be said, in resisting Bayern Munich for Dortmund in that 0-0 draw. Pretty much all starting to get back to his best. And Christian Zaccardo, there's a name from the past. He's still going strong for Carpi. Goal line clearance and pretty much vital in Carpi's 0-0 draw away at Bologna. Fede Catabia from Deportivo, Tom mentioned him earlier. He scored and got an assist in the 3-3 draw versus the inform Malaga. Rashid Gazelle, just mentioned him, next week's Hipsters Choice for Lyon. He's in hot form right now, mainly the reason why we picked him out. 2 assists and a goal, and just a constant menace in that attacking area for Lyon. David Silva also getting back to his best. He was brilliant versus Aston Villa in the Premier League. Granted, it is only Villa, but he was a constant creator in that victory. Kujachul of Augsburg, Drew mentioned earlier on, scored a hat-trick versus Leverkusen. Movement, pace, direct, really top performance from him. He will be delighted, as indeed will Augsburg, although not with the result. Mohamed Salah, one of John's favourites, or maybe not. He scored twice and grabbed an assist, by far his best spell in a Roma shirt in that victory over Fiorentina. Cristiano Ronaldo, he gets into the side this week, couldn't really leave him out, could we? I know it's Celta Vigo, no it's at home, but he still scored 4 goals, so enough said on that one. And Alex Lacazette, a favourite of mine, he gets the nod for the old number 9 shirt up front, scored twice, and showing real signs that he's starting to get back to his very best for Lyon. As far as the bench goes, Hector Bellerin of Arsenal, he's certainly returning to form, or it seems so, providing an assist for both goals in the North London derby. And Faizouli Goulam of Napoli, one of the best left backs probably in the world at the moment. Superb cross for Higuain's opener, so talented as an advanced left back, so he makes the side on the bench. Oresio of Malaga providing 2 assists from midfield and running his side from that area of the pitch. He gets on the bench as well, as does Munir, who maybe won't get the plaudits for a superb Barcelona performance. He got a goal and an assist for the goal from Messi, I believe. He kind of goes down as the assist giver on that one. That was in the 4-0 victory over Eibar. Diego Perotti, such a good signing for Roma, really is. A goal and an assist and hit the post, superb against Fiorentina. I think he really is going to be one of the signings of the window as far as Serie A goes. Sergio Aguero, we all know what he does, he scores goals. He actually managed to miss a penalty against Aston Villa as well, but he looks back to his lethal sharp best, and but for a very good save from Berghuis, and would have had a hat-trick before the penalty. And finally, Antoine Griezmann, the Frenchman of Atletico Madrid, he certainly seems to be back in form. A goal and an assist away at Valencia in the 3-1 victory. So there we go, there is this week's Team of the Week. As usual, it will be posted on our website for you to go and have a quick look at how we line them up, and we will report back and see how we do as opposed to what FIFA announced. I think we had another average week last week, got a few right, got a few wrong, but who cares? It's our team, we'll put in who the hell we like. Okay, right, we are getting close to the end of the show, and of course it wouldn't be a show unless we went across to you, the listeners. It's this week's Onion Bag. Right, now, before I go in, let's just double check. John, are you alive?
Yes, I am here. Apologies.
Good. That's all. As long as you're alive, that's what counts. Now, before we go into the listener questions, we asked you, the listeners, a question which we completely forgot to announce last week. We ran a poll, and the question we asked was, if we were to do a monthly roundtable podcast, no scripts, just football chatter, would you like the idea? Well, the results were in, and we had a result of 63% of you said yes, it's a great idea. 28% of you will not be happy because you said no, it's too much, and 9% of you will just be kind of happy either way because you were happy either way. So the overriding result was 63% of you want more, so we will be doing it. Once a month we'll get together with the team, hopefully all of us, breakfast crew and pod alike, and we'll talk a bit of football. So there we go. We will let you know when, and as soon as we get some dates together, we'll see. Maybe we'll even do it live. So there we go. Right, questions then. Conscious of time, gentlemen, so usual drill applies. I'm going to ask you the questions, rattle through your answers as quickly as possible. John, I'm going to start with you. The second part of at Cashon's question from earlier. Serie A, are Inter poised to get the last Champions League spot, do you think?
Yeah, trying to call Inter's form is very confusing. They've got a chance, but I just think that they're too inconsistent to be considered to get it. I'd love to think that they can, but I don't think they will. Is my simple answer. I just think they're too inconsistent.
You're always the pessimist. You've got to love that, haven't you?
The teams I've followed this season, it's
I'm totally with you. With you. Question from somebody who I'll mention again in a minute. Simon Collins, friend of the pod. He wanted to ask me. Gerard Houllier says PSG would win the Premier League. Is he right? Oui or no? I'm going to go with oui. I think PSG would win the Premier League, particularly this season. If you look at the amount of money they've got, the revenue, the players that they can attract, the fact they are in Paris, I think they would be very comfortable Premier League winners this season. And even against the very best of Premier League teams on the very best form, I still think they'd be in the top 3. So yes, the answer is yes indeed. Another question, one for Tom. This one is from @Jordan Chappelle 4 or Chapel. Chappelle sounds more funky, doesn't it? So we'll go with Chappelle. Which players do you think Arsenal should be looking at in the summer from La Liga? He's obviously an Arsenal fan. So yeah, who do you maybe stretch out the question a bit and say players you think would suit the Premier League from La Liga?
Okay, yeah, well, players I think will be available. You could pretty much go with the whole Real Madrid squad because they're going to be due an overhaul, so Benzema's going to be possibly available. You can look at James Rodriguez as well. In terms of other teams, a lot of people are going to be prying over Griezmann, obviously. In terms of Arsenal, they need a striker, so anyone in that department, they need creative midfielders. You can look at Camacho at Malaga, a defensive midfielder, Wise, who's been amazing for them, so if a team needs someone like that, that's definitely one to look out for. And if I go over defender, you got to go Atletico Madrid's Jose Maria Jimenez, who's, for me, and I know we disagree on this, but the best young centre back in the world. So definitely people will be looking at him.
Interesting, love it. Okay, one for you, Drew. @Cashod. He's asked loads of questions this week. A quick one here. Bundesliga, can BVB take advantage of the draw with Bayern and use that as a platform to destroy the scum? I don't think he's a Bayern fan somehow. Do you think that result, does that give Borussia Dortmund any opportunity to reel in? Because I'm not sure they do, but what do you reckon?
I don't know. I mean, and against Spurs, I would expect Dortmund to win. I think Dortmund are they have to be considered one of the favorites to make a run to the Europa League final. But as we've seen this season in the Premier League overall, and as Arsenal fans, when we featured against them, you can't underestimate Spurs whatsoever. They do have quality going forward. They have one of the best defensive cores in the Premier League with Vertonghen and Alderweireld. Loris on his day is an excellent keeper. So Dortmund have to be at their best, but I expect them to beat Spurs regardless of my bias against Spurs, so yeah.
So do I. I'm with you on that one. Okay, let's find another one for Tom. This one is also from the same person, @Cashod. Atletico Madrid on monster form. Can they hold it for the Champions League?
I certainly think they can. I mean, they have the one thing that many teams lack in the Champions League, and that's their defensive just superiority over pretty much any team I can think of. They have the best back five. They conceded 12 goals all season in the league. I think that they are definitely one of the favourites to win it.
I like it. I'm kind of inclined to agree with you as well. Another question from Janthab Shaheen, which was also asked by Simon as well, so it's kind of a double up, and it's on the man of the moment in France, Ousmane Dembele, or Ousmane Dembele, whichever you prefer. Jan's question was, he's sure to move in the summer. Anyone else see PSG going for him instead of Boufal? And Simon just simply wanted to know, is he as good as what we're saying? Now, the simple answer to that is yes. I really, really think he is, honestly. So much talent, pace, power, speed, the lot. He's just got everything. I really, really think he's going to be fantastic. So, yeah, I do think he will probably move. I wonder if it might be a little bit early, because, moving when he's this young, it's a little bit of a worry. But he could go anywhere he wants. He really, really could. So, I think he is good enough. As for PSG going for him, not so sure, Janzeb, to be honest, purely because he's not a name at the moment. PSG like to buy names, and also where's he going to play? And I can't see PSG touching Boufal. I think Boufal will end up at Spurs. That's my 50 pence worth. Another question. It's another one for me, actually. I'll just quickly get through this one. Pigman J. Hankinstein, he asked this on the breakfast show, but I saved it for tonight. Will Lacazette feature in the Euros for France with Benzema out of the national team? The simple answer to that is yes, but probably from the bench. I think Giroud will get probably most of the games, particularly in the system they play. I do expect Lacazette to go to the Euros, barring an injury or God knows what else, but I do think he'll be a substitute. Another one here for Drew from Janzeb. Also, should teams like Hertha and Mainz be looking at the form of Mario Gomez, not Mario Götze, in Turkey? He's got 18 in 23.
I think it would depend on what they plan to do in the summer in regards to who they're selling. There's a lot of rumors going around who that Mainz might sell Muto and Mali, and if they were to do that, I think going after someone like Gomez, who is experienced, he's a good target man. he would make a good target, and they could probably get him for a reasonable price where they won't break the bank. Hertha, I think, can aim a little bit higher, especially if they end up getting a Champions League spot. They'll be getting more revenue coming in. So I think that they should be looking for someone who they can build with going forward, especially with the winter business they did. Gomez could, it would make sense for them given the way they're going. So yeah, no, yes for Mainz maybe, but no for Hertha.
Fair enough. And there's two other quick French questions, and then I've saved the best for last, which I know John is absolutely itching to answer. This one's from Janzeb Shaheen again. In fact, the last two questions are from him. He wants to know about Fekir. Oh, Fekir, I love him. He said, Gazal's been in excellent form, same form Max Cornet, so when Fekir returns, who is dropped? Really good question, that John said. I really don't know. It's a straightforward answer to that, because Lyon have stumbled across the formation. I think if I had to put money on it, probably Cornet, purely because Gazal has been in rocket form at the moment. He really is coming onto a new level. I can't see Lyon dropping Gonalon from that holding midfield role. I think you've got to somehow fit Clement Grenier into that system as well. And of course Sergi Darder, who's in form at the moment. So it's a great problem for Lyon to have, but I think Cornet of that kind of attacking trio is probably the one that may take a step to the bench. And let's be honest, it's not the end of the world. And don't forget, Nabil Fekir can play as a number 10 or wide, or indeed straight through the middle. So you might even see a position where Lacazette and Fekir rekindle their love affair as far as assists and goals go, and then you could even see a Gazal Grenier sort of combination behind the two, so they might even change the formation. But it will be very interesting to keep an eye on. Of course, Fekir has to get fit first, so he'll probably be coming off the bench for a few weeks anyway. The final question Janzeb has for us was, with all these players surplus to requirements, should French clubs be pouncing on this? And he's put a list of players here that are going to be free, basically, in the summer to move on from their clubs. When I say free, not free monetarily, but free to move on probably. Younes Kaboul, Valentin Roberge, Emmanuel Riviere, Gabriel Obertan, Gouffran, Sylvain Marveau, Moussaïda Haddara, Gaël Clichy, Loic Remy, Charles Nzogbia, remember him? No. Jordan Veretout, Ali Sissoko, Jordan Amavi, and Mathieu Flamini. The simple answer to your question, John Zibber, is yes. I expect all of those players to move this summer, pretty much. Maybe Clichy might stick around for a season until Pep realises he's not actually very good at football. And Riviere, although he needs to move, might quite like the very big contract he's on at Newcastle. But the rest, yeah, I think they'll all move on. And yes, I think all of them will return to France. Maybe Loic Remy might stick around in the Premier League. I could see Leicester going back into him. Right, final question. John, are you ready?
Yeah.
At Cashod, he's either doing this just to wind you up or it's genuine, but he wants to know, can someone please explain to me the Champions League coefficient rules? I'm confused about it. So you like reading books about the coefficient, so off you go.
Oh dear. I got a tweet about this earlier as well from, I think it was Frank McClintock. Not the Frank McClintock, but yeah, someone on Twitter called that.
That is the same person.
Oh, is it the same? Is it that person? Okay. Right, there we go. I did try to explain this a little while ago. Essentially, in simple terms, because I won't go through all the rules again because it gets very confusing, but basically, the country that goes into European competition, the better the teams from said country do. So, for example, Spain, the further they get into a competition, the more points are assigned to that country's league. So, in Spain, they have Barca and Real and Atletico in the Champions League. If they all are in the semi-finals, they'll get loads of points. Obviously, at least one of them would then be in the final as well, so it give them more points. And it also counts in the Europa League. The reason why anyone is talking about it is because Italy were getting close to England's coefficient. That was mainly because Italian teams were starting to take the Europa League a little bit more seriously, and English teams traditionally haven't. But because basically most Italian teams, barring Lazio, crashed out of the Europa League, didn't get as many points as they need. So, in the simplest terms, for each round you progress in competition, whether it's Champions League or Europa League, you get another point. It's not exactly 1 point; it's more than that, and some of it's halves and stuff. But we'll just say, for argument's sake, it's 1 point. You get an extra point for your country, and that is your total number. And then at the end of the season, they then collect all the totals together, see what the numbers are, put it in the league format. So at the moment, Spain are top, then Germany, then England, Italy, then France. And depending on where you are in the league is how many positions your league is awarded in the Champions League and how many spots it's awarded in the Europa League. And it's done on a 5-year period. So if Italy outdid English teams across Europe, both competitions, for the next 5 years, then Italy will get an extra Champions League spot and England will lose one. At the moment, that's not happening because it's been slightly bettered this year because England are doing well in the Europa League for once. But it's still a possibility. If you would like to read this all yourself, it's a very exciting website. You just go to... Actually, you don't even have to go there. I'll just give you the Google. Just Google UEFA Champions League coefficient into Google, and you'll go to their lovely UEFA website, and there's a whole section on it, and you can go by club and country and all sorts of exciting things like... PSG are currently 4th in the season club coefficients for 2015-16. They've actually gone down a spot from Bayern Munich, who have gone into 3rd, would you believe? It's all very exciting. So if you like numbers and reading, it's all there for you.
So what John is basically saying is that if one of you lovely listeners, or one of the 5 of you, if you could all tweet him on a weekly basis asking pretty much the same question every week, because he likes nothing more than to read this on a weekly basis. Reading
whether players are eligible to play in the Champions League or the Europa League, if they play for another club in a qualifying round, like however many rounds before. It's great fun. I am going to be running for FIFA president because, I mean, the amount of knowledge that I'm gaining from reading all of this, I'm surely more qualified than everyone else there.
You have it's like your USP of the pod. You are the stat king. So, you know, whenever we need something read, so, you know, even if a listener wants John to read, I don't know, 50 Shades of Grey, just tweet us and we'll, you know.
What Chris is basically saying is no one else on the pod can read. Yeah.
That's probably fair. So there we go. Hopefully that answers your question, and thank you as always to everyone who's put in the questions. We love getting questions. We don't ever want to leave any out. So apologies if our answers are a bit short. We just don't want to bore you for hours and hours going over the same answers. So in future, guys, if there's a question you really want us to go to town on, just send us one each, and we'll do our very best to get them. But thank you as always. So that pretty much wraps us up this week. Couple of things to plug before we get out of here. I say it every week, but I'll keep saying it. iTunes reviews, people. The more we can get, the better. Please go to iTunes and leave us a 5-star review and a comment. Same with YouTube. By all means, leave us comments. The more comments we get on our videos, or the more thumbs up we get, the more sort of exposure we get, if you like, to YouTube, and the more people hopefully will be able to find us. And I haven't forgotten the 11s before that. Whoever has just asked me in the chat box there, I will come to those. And of course, we have a new interview coming up. Simon, who I mentioned earlier on, Simon Collins, myself and Simon sat down and talked about journalism, football media, all sorts from a media perspective. It was a really good chat that me and Simon had. That will be out this week. There will also be a breakfast pod on Sunday as usual. Pod from last night that myself, Danny and Ross did is available already, so you can listen to that if you want to get your update on Premier League. And myself and John should be back on Thursday with a satchel to cover all the European action as well. So that's pretty much everything. Drew's Hall of Fame blog will return this week. He was unwell last week, so hopefully he'll be alright this week. And it's Torre Andre Flo, Drew, am I right?
You'd be correct.
Good stuff. So do have a look at that. And the final thing, before we go, is, save the best for last, we had a request from last week, Gunnar Outpost, I think his name is. He asked us to pick an 11, we didn't do squads, just an 11 of players that he felt didn't live up to promise. And what we've done is we've kind of taken that theory and we've applied it to our leagues. So we've all picked an 11 of players that have joined our relevant leagues and have basically not lived up to the hype. So I'll kick us off. A Liga 11, I've gone with Martin Stecklenburg, and he went to Monaco. I've gone with Dejan Lovren, who wasn't very good at Lyon. Gregory van der Wiel, still at PSG, flattered to deceive. Doria, the next big thing of Brazil at centre-back. Yeah, really didn't work out at Marseille. Lucas Orban, similar. The Argentine left-back, really didn't work out very well for him. He's now at Valencia. Lucas Silva, there's a pattern developing here at Marseille from Real Madrid. Yeah, that didn't work out very well either. Florian Thauvin, guess who he plays for? Yep, you've guessed it, Marseille. Didn't really do anything at Newcastle. Hasn't really done anything at Marseille. Stephen El-Shaarawy, certainly better in Serie A than he was at Monaco, that's for sure. Didn't work out very well for him there. Speaking of which, Radamel Falcao, God bless him. Yeah, Monaco, that didn't work out very well, did it? Bit of a controversial one. Johan Cabaye sitting behind the front two. Very good at Lille, but you really didn't do it for PSG. Probably the reason he plays for Crystal Palace now. No offence, Eagles fans. And finally, it's my good friend and yours, Edinson Cavani. Enough said. I'll leave that one there. Drew, give us yours from the Bundesliga.
Oh dear. Okay, I didn't know I was coming next. Thanks, Chris. So Raphael Wolf at goalkeeper, defensive with 4 players: Gotuku Sakai, Emil Spahic, Matthias Ostrozolik, and Asani Leukemia. Midfield 3 of Christian Ledesma, Kevin Prince Boateng, my apparent lookalike, or vice versa, and Velem Barami, and forward 3 of Chiro Immobile, Nicholas Bettner, and Roy Behrens. Yeah.
That's a front 3 to strike fear in anyone. John, sorry, what's your Serie A version?
Oh, this was actually quite difficult until you started throwing some names at me. But in goal, I've got Labont, who is at Roma, apparently. I haven't seen him for a while, but anyway, I said about that better. Rodoscia, who is now at Sampdoria, good. Vidic, who is... I don't know where he is now. Is he anywhere? I don't think he's playing for anyone, is he? Yeah. Ashley Cole, he had a great time at Roma, sort of sitting around and looking at the shops, I suppose. Felipe Melo, who's at Inter. Ricky Alvarez, who is thankfully at Sampdoria. Do you notice all these players that were at Inter Milan? Kevin Constant, who's at Bologna, which was a surprise to me. I didn't even realise he was still in Serie A. Guilherme at Udinese, he was the next big thing for Brazil. Alessia Churchy, I think some people might disagree with me on, but he was always raved about, and I'm still not convinced. Mario Balotelli speaks for itself, and Klassiker Huntelaar, who done well in Germany, and I thought he was even alright at Madrid, but not so good at Milan.
Good. And finally, last but not least, Tom, have you got a La Liga side to...
I do indeed. So in goal, I've got the guy who is impossible to pronounce, is Iturretaguena, who's at Eibar, simply because John Driscoll described him as the person who... It's when someone's on a park and someone says, yeah, I'll have a go in goal, because he cannot catch for... Well, you know what the word is. But, right back, I've got Arbeloa, came from Liverpool to Real Madrid. There's 7 Real Madrid players in this team. Vermaelen at Barca, who just really hasn't done it since moving from Arsenal. Jonathan Woodgate, moving from Newcastle to Real Madrid. What a player he was. Fabio Coentrão, another big move from the Portuguese league to the Spanish league that didn't really work out now at Monaco. Nuri Sahin, moved from Dortmund to Real Madrid. That really didn't work out. Went straight back. Van der Vaart was moved from Hamburg to Real Madrid, and then has moved again to Betis in the Spanish league and never really hit it either time. Kaka, one of the record-breaking signings, never really hit the heights he had at AC Milan. Altin Top, the Turkish winger, moved to Real Madrid, never did anything really. Now back in Turkey. Jackson Martinez, my favourite man to beat a stick with. No, that sounds horrible. Atletico Madrid, he just never did anything. Is now in China. And Joaquin, who when he moved to Valencia was hyped up as one of the biggest Spanish prospects ever and really did not cut it. Did better at Malaga, but that was about it.
Splendid. Well, there we go. What a way to finish. Basically picking out a load of players that have disappointed him. The fact that I had half a team of Marseille players, and the fact John had half a team of ex-Inter players, there's a pattern developing here. But hey-ho. That was a good question. And thank you very much to Gunnar Outpost for that. Very, very kind
Just
of
to clarify quickly before we finish, all of those footballers are much better than us, obviously.
Oh, absolutely, yes. No, we're not saying they're bad.
Well, we are.
Well, maybe one or two are bad, but they just didn't really light up the league, unfortunately. So, hey-ho. But yes, tweet us your thoughts, namely tweet us your teams, whatever you like. Please do so at the FH Podcast. Do it. Get involved, people. That's it. That is definitely it from us. We are out of here. We will indeed speak to you again on the Satchel. If you want us to put together a team of your choice, please do send us a quick tweet. So if there's a particular 11 you want our guys to put together, just drop us a tweet. We'll do our best to do it as homework. The only thing we ask is try and make sure they're on the current copy of FIFA, because it's easier for us to make the teams out of it. So yeah, maybe a current sort of question would be great. But thank you very much for that. We appreciate it. Right, so all that remains to be said is for me to thank my fellow hipsters. So thank you, Drew. Thank you, John. Thank you, Tom.
Cheers, Chris.
No problem.
Happy to be here.
And we will, of course, return. In the meantime, I shall say the immortal words to keep your beard strong and your glasses trendy. Look out for the interview with Simon Collins on Thursday. Tune in for the Satchel with myself and John on Thursday. And indeed the Breakfast Pod on Sunday. And we will return to you this time next week. Enjoy your football, people.
Toujours pour frapper le corner. Oh, quel geste! Quel geste! L'égalisation de Zlatan Ibrahimovic.
Andrés Iniesta, se anima Andrés. Andrés tocó la evolución de Neymar. Messi. Versucht alles aus sich rauszuholen. Verfolgt von Schmelzer. Müller vorbei an Weidenfeller. Müller. Bayern München ist Pokalsieger.
Che può battere Insigne con il destro a giro, alla rete, favoloso, si gonfia la rete, favoloso!